Coming up on Mountain News this morning, a Kentucky man charged with killing his own family appears in court, and groups of vigilantes take it upon themselves to try and catch sexual predators here in the Commonwealth.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning to you. It's 5:32 on this Friday. I'm Dakota Makris. The weekend is almost here. Let's take it over to Brandon this morning well, Brandon, I guess the rain's moving out, right? Am I wrong?
It's on the way out.
Okay.
I'm actually trying to help it with this sun-colored tie here, trying to push it on out a little bit further. But after today, I think the weekend is going to be much, much better, even though it's going to be much, much hotter toward the end of it. Let's see what's going on this morning. Still some rain out there, so some green showing up, some yellows as well, indicating some heavier bands of rain. Got one over into Madison County, and so got a little red in it, so that's a heavier band of rain moving through there as well. No severe weather this morning, just heavy rain out there in some spots. I-75 at London, all quiet there for the most part, not too much in the way of fog, but overcast skies. Temperatures 50s and 60s from 54 Clintwood and Wise to 61. Actually 62 if you want to get technical there in Ashland, but 61 in Moorhead, Somerset, Monticello, Jacksboro, and Jonesville this morning. Everybody else is down just a little bit. Across the state and region, 56 across the river in Cincinnati, 62 in the Tri-Cities, 59 in Paducah and Owensboro, and 62 in Bowling Green and Lexington this morning. 12-hour planner heading up to about 72 today, but we're going to have rain chances around all day. Is it going to rain all day? No. But is it rain chances going to be around all day? Yes. So keep your rain gear handy. Sunrise 6:16, sunset 8:46. Dakota?
All right, Brandon, thank you. Well, families continue to grieve as they struggle with the aftermath of Tuesday's mass shooting at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas. On the school's front lawn, rows of crosses mark each of the 21 lives lost. As the community mourns, it's also questioning the police response. State officials say the 18-year-old shooter was inside the school for 40 minutes to an hour before a tactile team confronted and killed him. By then, 2 teachers and 19 children were fatally shot, including Javier Cesar's 10-year-old daughter.
They said they rushed in and all that. We didn't see that. I didn't see no preparedness at all. I mean, as soon as they heard that gunshot, they should have rushed in.
The rampage ended when a U.S. Border Patrol team stormed the barricaded classroom. A law enforcement source told CBS News the shooter entered the school with 7 loaded magazines. That is 210 rounds of ammunition. He had another 15 magazines in his backpack. The source said it appears the gunman was preparing for a massive gun battle. The Lexington man charged with the murders of his wife and 2 daughters will stay in jail without bond. A judge entered a not guilty plea for Steve Wilson yesterday. Officials say 65-year-old Lisa Wilson and her daughters, 38-year-old Byron and 42-year-old Bryony, were found dead inside their house on Kaywood Drive. Police say they each had multiple gunshot wounds.
When you have something like this, you just pick and pick and pick and try to figure out what could have possibly happened, what could have possibly gone wrong.
Well, the Wilsons' neighbors and family members say they were shocked and saddened. Lisa was a longtime nurse at Good Samaritan Hospital. Bryony worked at the Lexington Public Library, and Bronwyn worked at Mondele's Bake Shop. Vigilante groups are trying to catch sexual predators here in Kentucky. The groups try to trick suspects by posing as minors online and turn them into police. Alex Rosen founded the group Predator Poachers. His work led to an arrest of a Pulaski County man accused of soliciting a minor for sex.
I never expected to be a quote-unquote YouTuber. Never really expected this, but obviously, now 3 years later, we're traveling the country and having arrests in 27 states, and this has obviously turned into a very big passion of mine.
Some detectives say they wish vigilante groups would leave catching predators to police. An Eastern Kentucky fire captain is warning about the dangers of following trucks or cars too closely following a crash on the Hal Rogers Parkway. We talked with him about the dangerous situation and how it could have been much worse. A truck carrying cars to be recycled lost its load early Wednesday morning, leaving the cars behind on the parkway. A fire captain says the driver said he did not know the cars fell off.
It was called in as a single vehicle accident, a 46 car on its top. And that's what the deputies saw when they first got there. And of course, their hearts sank because, how can a person survive that type of accident.
Thousand Sticks Volunteer Fire Department Captain John Newell says no one was hurt in the crash, saying the driver was stopped in Laurel County, saying if another driver was behind him, it would have ended badly.
It's just important to keep the distance, and you never know when something like this may happen. Fortunately, again, thank God that nothing was hit. Nobody was hit.
Newell says besides keeping your distance,
stay off your phone. You see a lot of that. Stay off your phone. Allow that person in front of you to be able to stop without you hitting them.
And reminding truckers to make sure their loads are secure before hitting the road. Well, officials also say if you have your car towed, make sure it is secured to the truck. Wolf County Search and Rescue saved a hiker who was injured near the Indian Staircase in Menifee County. Well, the hiker was trying to descend the unofficial Indian Staircase bypass trail when the man slipped and fell, receiving a puncture wound to his arm. His wound began to bleed, causing him to later lose consciousness briefly. The man's daughter managed to stop the bleeding before he was taken out of the woods by the rescue team. Well, there's an investigation into a little-known setup in the medical world, one that critics say has led to unnecessary surgeries. We're talking about physician-owned distributorships. It's a setup our National Investigative Team found can be so hidden that hospitals don't even realize they're paying doctors not to just operate, but for their own equipment. Here's Lee Zurich with Operation Profit.
Wow, didn't realize what I escaped.
Cruz, I love you. Mr. Poachers on the bass guitar, check it out. Shut up! Come on, everybody!
This used to take up much of Paul Shin's time until the rock and roll musician tore some cartilage in his knee. That injury cascaded into a series of serious problems. A limp from his leg issue wound up causing back pain. That's when a doctor sent him to a specialist.
So they recommended that you get an operation on your back?
Yes, a medical procedure that was minimally invasive.
Shin says the surgery involved a clamp and surgical material, but the material busted apart and he needed it removed. Here's what came out. Some pieces remain lodged in his spinal cord.
I can't move because the pain's just so sharp. It's just debilitating.
Public records show Shin was among many patients who sued Dr. Arya Sabit, who's been accused of multiple botched surgeries with high infection rates and surgical mishaps. Kevin Reynolds also sued after his mother died.
She was a beautiful lady, heart of gold.
Reynolds says he signed pre-op paperwork for a 1 or 2 level spinal fusion.
He took it upon his own accord to do more levels, 3 to 4 levels in total, so 2 extra levels without our consent.
What was unknown to many patients like Reynolds' mother, Sabit made money off of some of the screws, plates, and cages he used in surgeries. Sabit's setup is actually used by doctors all across the country. It's known as physician-owned distributorships, or pods. It's where the doctors own a piece of the company that supplies the hardware for surgeries.
You have these egregious doctors that were throwing in hardware just for the sake of making money.
Neurosurgeon Scott Lederhouse once served as president of the Association for Medical Ethics. He says by using their own company's hardware, doctors can make 2 or 3 times more money per surgery.
Most of the doctors keep it in a stealth mode where they just will keep quiet about their involvement in the pod, making any money on the implants they put in.
Right now, it's almost impossible to identify where pods are operating, even though they're required to publicly report ownership through a federal program called Open Payments. When we analyzed the most recent federal data, we only found 24 likely pods. The government believes many more exist and has concerns about these pods, even discussing evidence of pods doctors operating more often and sometimes unnecessarily. But some health law experts argue this story is more about some bad doctors instead of a bad business model.
Because if a surgeon is doing unnecessary surgeries, to me that's a whole different issue. Having nothing to do with what they own, that's a problem in and of itself. To me, that's analytically a different question.
But even this proponent of pods agrees there should be transparency when doctors profit off the hardware they use in surgery.
This type of stuff wasn't disclosed, and it's not, I hate the word transparent in the medical field because I didn't experience any of that.
Well, court records show Reynolds' mother's surgery was one of more than 375 Dr. Sabat performed at a California hospital. He then resigned and went to Michigan, where more accusations piled up. In 2015, Sabat pleaded guilty to healthcare fraud. A federal judge sent him to prison for 20 years. One step meant to force more transparency in reporting. The government changed the rules this year and is requiring pods to clearly use that label in federal records. Well, just ahead this morning, a famous actor gets a new lease on life after battling 2 illnesses at the same time.
Shaping up to be another breezy day with more storm chances on the horizon, at least for at times during the day. I'll have the latest in about 3 minutes.